Thank you, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to our June action meeting. We're going to start the evening off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, this is great. We've got the band back together. Everyone's here. Even Mr. Patchell. Welcome, Mr. Patchell. How are you? We're going to do something in person we haven't done for a long time, and we're going to recognize a group of students who have a phenomenal accomplishment to speak of tonight. We're going to recognize our Odyssey of the Mind team. Okay.
Our two advisors this evening who will present the students to us are Mrs. Joanne Wernis and Mrs. Kathy Heath. Welcome.
Good evening, members of the school board, cabinet members, and Dr. Dietrich isn't here. See, you prepare and...
He's actually providing live updates from the state title game for softball.
Oh, yeah. That's important.
He's at State College right now.
That's important. Go team. Okay, I'm proud to be here tonight as district coordinator of North Penn's Odyssey of the Mind program to acknowledge the students' achievements in OM during this unprecedented school year when extracurricular activities were difficult, if not impossible. 38 North Penn students on 6 different teams participated in Odyssey of the Mind this season, despite the safety requirements brought about by the pandemic, proving that distance is no boundary to teamwork, creativity, and critical thinking. These teams met the challenge and participated virtually, creating and submitting videos instead of performing in person. All 6 represented their schools proudly, advancing from regionals to states and ultimately world finals. When it was safe to travel and congregate, one team chose to perform in person at the Odyssey of the Mind World Final held in Orlando, Florida last weekend. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the North Penn administration, the school board, and building principals in particular for their continued cooperation and support of North Penn Odyssey of the Mind. We are hopeful that the program will be back to normal in the fall, and students who were unable to participate this year can and will return. One of the coaches is here tonight to announce their team. I will read statements from those who were unable to attend and announce their team members. On behalf of Mike Lockery, coach of the North Penn High School technical team, this was a very challenging year for many due to the pandemic. Adding to the challenge for this team was bringing together 6 seniors and 1 sophomore from 3 different teams that competed separately last year. While these students were all experienced OMers, they were coming from teams that had varied work methods, strategies, and individual talents. To be successful in this, their last year in North Penn, they had to work together to mesh their talents and decide on a common strategy. As it turns out, they were very successful in navigating these challenges by putting egos aside and doing what was best for the team and the performance. Their hard work paid off. They finished first in the Southeast PA regional competition, first in the Pennsylvania state competition, and ultimately finished second in world finals, where they competed against more than 50 teams from 9 countries. This phenomenal team also received the Renata Fusca, a prestigious award given to teams that exhibit exceptional creativity. The team wowed judges with their innovative technical effects and ingenious costumes. These students have proudly represented and supported North Penn Odyssey of the Mind for many years and will be missed as the seniors become alumni. The members of this team are as follows: Lorna Lockery, senior, Lorna received a Falcon Foundation scholarship from the Air Force Academy to attend Randolph-Macon Military Prep School for 1 year, and then to the Academy next year to be part of the class of 2026. Leah Whalen, senior. Leah will participate in a summer internship with Nickelodeon, followed by attendance at Pratt Institute majoring in illustration. Jane Peters, senior. Jane will attend Penn State University majoring in business. Lauren Eglin, senior. Lauren will attend Temple University majoring in pre-med. Kyle Schaffsteller, senior. Kyle will attend Penn State University majoring in engineering. Natalie Upright, senior. Natalie will attend University of Pittsburgh majoring in biological science. Megan Lockery is a senior or a sophomore at North Penn High School. On behalf of Karen Navard, coach of Penndale Balsa Wood team, this team came together in a time of unprecedented challenges and didn't settle for the usual. Instead, they set their sights high, reached for the stratosphere, and they soared. This was their third time at a state competition, and this time they came in first place, earning the right to compete at World Finals, and then ranked 9th in their division, with 5th highest weight held. This is certainly a talented team and one to watch in the years to come. The members of this team are Ryan Navard, 7th grader at Penndale Middle School, Eric Voss, 7th grader at Penndale, Adi Patel, 7th grader at Penndale, Vansh Patel, 7th grader at Penndale, Lily Cole, 7th grader at Penndale, Cristano Durfee, 8th grader at Penfield Middle School, and Camilo Durfee, 5th grader at Walton Farm Elementary School. On behalf of Lisa Upright, coach of the North Penn High School performance team, this team of 9th and 10th graders came together in January, just months before the regional tournament. In that short time, they had a skit they were very proud of and a backdrop that was a life-size infinity cube. This backdrop flipped and turned from an airplane to a diner to a living room couch. This was done with ease, and judges were amazed. This team came together only because of the COVID shutdowns, since their other activities were virtual or canceled. As their coach, I am very proud of them and so thankful of Odyssey of the Mind to give them an activity that they enjoyed during the pandemic. They persevered and had success. Great job, girls. The members of this team are as follows: Hannah Wright, 10th grader, Ella Note, 10th grader, Jillian Upright, 9th grader at Pembroke, Maddie Hanrahan, 9th grader at Pembroke, Gemma Chavour, 9th grader at Pembroke. On behalf of Courtney Murphy, coach of the Nash Elementary School performance team, all of the elementary school students on the Nash Odyssey of the Mind team worked hard and worked well together. Their ability to collaborate, cooperate, and create was remarkable. They created amazing characters and a story out of nowhere. Hopefully it gave them joy and showed them just how capable they are. I would like to recognize all the members for their hard work, dedication, perseverance, and creativity. The members of this team are as follows: Claudia Murphy, 3rd grader at Nash Elementary School, Clara Kuhn, 3rd grader at Nash, Sadie Zavada, 3rd grader at Nash, Harjas Kaur, 2nd grader at Gwinnett Square Elementary School, Avinav Jaswal, 2nd grader at Gwinnett Square, Harrison George, 4th grader at North Wales Elementary School, and Serena Cabrales, 2nd grader at Walton Farm Elementary School. On behalf of Prashant Jaswal, coach of the Penndale performance team, my team took part in problem number 5, titled Super Socks, Cliffhanger Beginning. The team took a major step forward in their advancement to a point where they scheduled and ran meetings and distributed tasks without much guidance from the coach. A natural leadership group formed to help mentor the newer members and to hold everyone accountable for their assigned tasks. The team took their 3rd place finish at regionals as a challenge and were able to finish 2nd at states. thanks in part to a dominating performance in the spontaneous portion of the competition. These young women are well on their way to becoming valuable members of society and making us all proud. The members of this team are as follows: Anvita Hadi, 6th grader, Gwinnett Square Elementary School; Yash V. Patel, 6th grader at Montgomery Elementary School; Gia Jaswal, 7th grader at Penndale Middle School; June Biswas, 7th grader at Penndale; Nidhai Paredi, 7th grader at Penndale; and Anvitha Madaka, 7th grader at Penndale. I'd also like to introduce Kathy Heath. She was a coach of one of our high school teams, and the team that took on the challenge to travel to Florida for the in-person competition.
I had the honor of coaching the high school balsa team this year. We had the most inclusive and wide range of age in our group because we went from 2nd grade all the way to post-12 students. They took the challenge of meeting virtually, except for a group of them who were my kids, so they that was an advantage. And they were able to navigate doing the performances and earned second place at regionals, first place at state virtuals, 20th at world final virtuals, and I'm very proud to say 6th place and in-person world finals last weekend. This team built a structure that had to trap a moving object before holding weight, and the structure could weigh no more than 15 grams, made out of balsa wood. They had a humorous performance. They built a spider brush spot, built a sound system, programmed an Arduino for effects, worked around technical difficulties, and built and painted backdrops and made costumes out of various recycled materials. They impressed the judges with their research, teamwork, use of songs, and programming and recycled materials. And these are a great group of kids who were finally able to actually crush their structure in person rather than view it on video and have a machine do it. This group consists of Inglewood 2nd grader William Heath, Penndale 9th grader Sarah Heath Andrea Nicholson, 10th grader Danny Boyce, 11th grader Robert Heath, and post-12 student Mark Heath. And we would like to thank you for the honor of being able to represent North Penn in person this past weekend. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on that most impressive accomplishment. All right, moving along. We are going to move to our audience of citizens, public comment portion of the meeting. This meeting is being videotaped for community cable channels. Individuals attending this meeting and intending to speak to the board should be aware that they are being videotaped. In order to meet the requirements of Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, it is necessary to record the names of all citizens who speak to the board during the meeting. To assure compliance with this requirement, it is essential that those planning to address the board state their name and address. Members of the audience are asked to limit their questions and comments. To allow time for all those who wish to speak to the board president may ask an individual to yield the microphone to the next speaker. Good evening, Mr. Patchell. I'm going to make a small request. Carmina Taylor is here from the Movement for Black and Brown Lives in Montgomery County. She had requested being able to speak first because she has another.
Surely.
Do you mind?
I'll yield back part
I appreciate
of my
it,
time.
and then you can go right up. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Certainly on the heels of the federal government signing a federal holiday for Juneteenth today, I want to publicly acknowledge and thank Dr. Dietrich and you, the school board, for allowing me this opportunity on this important topic. A few months ago, or in the summertime, a group of us, myself, Chris Jaramillo, and Veronica Mueller, decided to put together a group called the Movement for Black and Brown Lives in Montgomery County based on our lived experiences in Montgomery County. We wanted to focus on a countywide initiative that talked about educational equity, healthcare disparities, and juvenile justice. On April 7th, we sent an email to all the school board presidents and all the superintendents in Montgomery County announcing that we were initiating an educational equity report card. And it was based on all of our lived experiences of doing educational equity work, but also giving us an opportunity to share with our communities our commitment to a well-rounded student experience. So what we wanted to do is ensure the confidence from our school communities that we would always earnestly advocate for the best student experience in the district. Our primary goal was after the election to come out with the 4 categories we wanted to make sure all 23 school districts had in their system so we could better assess and articulate what we wanted for our parents and our students. So the 4 categories of the educational equity card were: 1, does the district have an educational equity policy? 2, do they have a DEI staff person or someone doing that type of work? 3, is there an internal equity audit process? We also attached the ESSER 2 and the ESSER 3 funding allocations for each school district with the hope that we could continue to work with the school districts in ensuring that marginalized students got the benefit of the federal money separate of your budget. I want to just proudly say that North Penn, at the time when I proposed it to all the school districts, was the only school district that had all of the categories absolutely complete. And for that reason, I came to acknowledge that to you guys and to the public and to all the other school districts that are listening, because I have worked with most of you. I have gotten to know the school board members, and working with Dr. Dietrich on some other projects, I think it's exceptional that you guys have been absolutely committed and you're doing the work internally, and I think people don't know that you do the work internally. So I just want to highlight some things that I know that you do. One of the things that I will say is that you guys are intentionally engaging with your students and families. You did that before COVID, during COVID, and you have a plan to do it afterwards. You do intentional outreach. You do intentional qualitative and quantitative data assessment, and that is a great foundation for this work. You've figured out and you've provided ways to support the families in their best interest, to monitor their academic progress. You have acknowledged that there were achievement gaps that historically existed, and you've been emboldened to address it, deal with it, acknowledge it, and do something about it, which I think is exceptional. You spend time making sure that you publicly face your school community in ensuring that you've increased interaction with the combination of the teachers and the students. You look at performance data. And I think what else is very exceptional is that you do articulate the measures that the district plans to do to increase student engagement. Most importantly, in terms of the ESSER 2 and 3, I've recognized that you guys have a comprehensive plan that incorporates enrichment programs, that incorporates realistic programs for the magnitude of the school that you have to oversee. I grew up in Wissahickon, and to me, North Penn was always just over there. You had a huge graduation, and you guys made it seem like it was seamless. We were over there. Wissahickon had, like, my class was 288 people, not 1,200. And for that reason, today we are launching this initiative, going out to the school boards, recognizing the work that you're doing, and offering ourselves as a community partner to continue to focus on these efforts. I obviously, before I became a part of this group, was the president of an NAACP branch. And from that point on till tonight, and I thought about the last time I was here, you received me. And that's very important. You've respected my passion. You know my work, and Dr. Dietrich knows it as well. And the staff knows it as well. And I can't even say how that means and makes a difference at this very moment. I have to go to Solderton, and this will be the third time I went to Solderton because they haven't let me speak. And so I want to acknowledge the gratitude that I have and the respect that I have for both of you for this relationship, because it's so important that you guys become the standard for Montgomery County. Let me repeat that. It is so vitally important that you guys become the standard. We always look at North Penn as this like huge school, right? So if you guys, even if you take your percentage of economically disadvantaged students and you take the percentage of your minority students, that's greater than most school districts have altogether. So therefore, the work that you do provides a model. Your equity plan has an implementation process that develops a practice, and the practice produces student outcomes. And that's what we're talking about. Not just a statement that's on your website or on your page, but it's an action plan that produces results. And if this school district can do that, then why wouldn't any other school district do it as well? So I appreciate the time. I really, I'm in awe of just being here at this moment and knowing all the things that you guys have to face. And I just want to say that, I want to also regard that our group did a conversation colloquially on education equity. And all of your prospective school board candidates came and participated. And of all the 23 school districts, and I want you guys to know this, all the school board candidates from North Penn were the sharpest tool in the box. They also provided so much information. And you guys lead the pack in that as well, as strong, solid school board members. There's a lot of things going on in various school districts in this county. And stability in leadership, and leadership that gets it, and leadership that's committed makes a difference. And I want to acknowledge that as well. So as you move forward, and as we move forward as community partners, I definitely want to dig deeper into your ESSER funding and make sure that we're working together and demonstrate to the other school districts that I'm an ally and not an adversary. And we need to come together. And the last thing I want to say is that you all read the PCCY report. And one of the things that it did is it really highlighted Montgomery County opposed to Bucks, Chester, and Delaware. And it wasn't until that moment did I realize that we needed to have Montgomery County pride, and that our weakest school district demonstrates our greatest strength. And if you guys are the strongest school district, you can pull up the weakest district, and we can be one Montgomery County again, and above the other district that had some better, worse statistics and stuff. So thank you for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it, community. And I really want you guys to know that when you think about how many elementary schools do you have, like 13?
13.
Oh, my goodness. So when you have 13 elementary schools, and some school districts only have 2 or 3, and how to manage that and still figure out how to make sure you're inclusive and affirming and safe in the largest school districts in the county is not anything to look lightly over. So I commit our movement group to you guys. Well, Dr. Dietrich knows regardless, I'm going to, he can't get rid of me. But he still receives me, and that's important. He receives me with respect, and I receive and reciprocate the same, and the same to all of you, and I thank you for this time.
Thank you, Carmina. Thank you.
Should I begin? I want to thank the board for listening attentively to people with other points of view, with different agendas and everything. You listen respectfully. In a lot of municipalities, a lot of state governments, the listening is very lacking, and the volume is very loud, and the conclusions that are reached are very slim. So we do have a diverse group of people. Oh, My name is William Patchell. I live at 404 Bonnie Lane. I live in Montgomery Township. I think Montgomery Township could actually have a Brexit, and I would provide an excellent school system with about 700 students in it because we have the economic wherewithal, and the parents, the reservoir of students with high academic achievement would be very high. So, Boris Johnson has the same problem, trying to talk to the French. But anyway, what seems like amazing results when we hear about the Odyssey of Mine, I think about the vast body of average students. When you speak about diversity and inclusion, it is difficult to think that some families are hiring tutors. Oh, yes, they come to my house 3 times a week for 4 hours a day. Well, that wouldn't be fair to the other kids. But we have the money, and we make it happen. Is that fair? But that is life. That's the way it really is. And people complain, but you know what? In a free market capitalistic system, you have to put up with the achievements that are achieved by people who are blessed with certain rights, and they are blessed with income. They are blessed with a reservoir of money. But when you start taking that away from people, you take all the incentive away. And this is the vast chasm that's growing in politics, why red is fighting blue and blue is fighting red, because there are 2 distinctive views on life and on how it should come about. They said, almost 2 million free meals. Now, what does that say about a district? You're getting 2 million free meals. I looked at the box. I called Miss Melissa Froheimer. She's a very articulate person doing nutrition. And I said, you know what, if it was me, I'd send that box back to the USDA because it's all single-serve, little plastic things. I said, I used to get things like that in the Army. Hard to believe 55 years ago. I was in the Army, and they sent us stuff that was like ready to expire 10 years before I got it. So, I don't approve of this stuff. And I said, what happens is you give away 2 million meals, but then on the other side of the coin, you sit there and say, oh, well, we have to raise the taxes by 2.8%. Why don't you skip the tax increase and let everybody buy their own food? I think that would be a better outcome. Maybe the food that they would buy would even be better because you're going to have evictions. I told you what's happening here. We're getting academic and financial apartheid. They got a house around my corner. 705,000, went up 200,000 last year. Oh, I don't think too many poor people are going to be moving in there. And the number of children getting on a bus, I doubt if there'll be any children coming from that location. Okay, so we talk about raising taxes, and it's an endless cycle, round and round and round. And you know who's going to live here? You're going to get things like, and I pointed it out to Dr. Bauer, the graduating class this year, only 900.
I'm going to give 30 more seconds.
Yes?
30 more seconds. Yes, you did. And we made an arrangement beforehand. Carmina Taylor is her name. Thank you, Mr. Patchell.
Thank you very much. Oh, I thought I was being terminated. No, only 979, Dr. Bauer, you could correct me on this, on the number of graduates that we've had. It's been consistently going down and down and down. And I look at the numbers that correlate to this. How many PhDs do we have in a district now? That's going up and up and up. Oh, yeah, we had to get rid of some of the staff in the outreach for the Miss Libreski. She let a couple of staff people because we have to keep costs in control. You're getting less and less students. I don't understand it. And you come out, I'm 74 years old, and I tell you what, I represent 21,000 people that are retired. That's a pretty large, that's the largest group I can put my hands around in this district. And you know what? They pulled the wagon. You need to stop raising taxes, be more efficient, be responsive to the costs that you have, and start eliminating some of these costs. You just can't keep raising. You get a budget, and then you figure, well, we got to get more taxes. You got accounting backwards. It shouldn't be like that. Figure out what you need, and then we'll work with it. It's wrong what you're doing. One more thing. I hate to talk a long time. I talked to Mia Kim about contact tracing. I sent a thing out a little bit later, request denied. A little bit later, contact tracing, request denied. We had a nice conversation. She said, well, I'll get back to you. I never did get an answer on that. I don't think any contact tracing, nobody even understood what was going on, other than, all I know, you've been looking for a psychologist for 4 or 5 months. When they get back here, they're going to have severe mental problems. Not the kids of the Odyssey on the Mind, the average kids. Those are the people, and you need to get busy on mental health.
Thank
That's
you,
all.
Mr. Patchell.
Hey,
Thank you, Mr.
thanks.
Patchell.
It's great to be back.
It is good to be back. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vicki Flannery. I am from North Wales Borough. I am the Moms for Liberty Montgomery County chapter co-chair. Currently, we have 44 chapters in 19 states with over 15,000 members and 100+ pending chapter requests. Montgomery County chapter was the first chapter in Pennsylvania. We currently have 7 total in the state with over 1,200 members and almost 600 in Montgomery County. The majority of our members are from the North Penn District. So we can agree that everyone in this room is a parent advocating for what is best for our children, because as parents, no one knows what's best for our own child than us. You are elected by us to represent us and facilitate the needs of every student here in North Penn, not just some. When parents request a survey be sent out regarding masks, you are required to send one as elected representatives of us and of our children. You are expected to listen and encourage input from our community before making any decisions regarding our children, their education, and their safety, and their health and safety. Per the PSBA, you are all required to, quote, promote open, honest, and respectful dialogue among the board, staff, and the community, something which I absolutely did not see last week. Mr. Casa, you talked down to many parents expressing concerns, and Mr. Fusco got heated and argumentative. Dr. Lewis Campbell, your attempt at reprimanding parents with legitimate concerns was perhaps the most disrespectful and flagrant violation of this requirement I have seen. Don't roll your eyes at me. And while I'm speaking of the PSBA, Mr. Casa, when you ran for state representative, you violated another requirement. Quote, never use the position for improper benefit to self and others. Ethically speaking, you should have resigned from your position on the school board, considering you received $1.48 million in donations, some of that coming from Governor Wolf, Val Arkush, and the AFT, the teachers union. I expect going forward, you all pay attention to what is expected of you as a member of our school board, as elected representatives for us and for our children. And remember who at the end of the day is in charge. Hint, it's none of you.
How's everyone doing? I'm Shane Gilchrist, live on Oxford Road, Lansdale, right behind the high school. I don't have quite as fiery a speech, though I can really second a lot of those thoughts and feelings. I'm mostly concerned with the masks. I have a child who has a diagnosed condition that was formerly a student of the North Penn School District. And I'm just curious as to why at the last meeting it was presented that masks would be optional for all students, and now it seems like we're kind of bouncing back and forth, especially with those ages 5 to 11. We're backpedaling. As part of my son's diagnosed condition, he relies heavily on people's facial cues, seeing how his peers, his teachers, express themselves. That's something he can no longer use with a mask covering his face. He can't get that interaction. That's going to affect his development. So we were forced into a decision, which we included our kids as part of the decision. And that was, do we keep you at home and we homeschool you, or do we let you stay at school? And as much as our children liked going and seeing their friends at school, and they still continue to talk about their friends that they missed from school, they under no circumstances wanted to put a mask on their face all day and stand in the classroom with their peers and try to act like everything is normal. We have been through this long enough. Things are returning to normal. Everything's numbers are down. We need to stop bouncing back and forth and give these parents a clear answer so that we can keep our kids on a path towards development and not worry about the politics of everything that goes behind it. Lastly, as elected members of what is supposed to be a nonpartisan position, do you feel it's ethical to be posting your political beliefs in public forums? Because I've seen an awful lot of that. It's been made very apparent on numerous occasions, and I think you're going to hear multiple people touch on that as well. One more thing, as to this gentleman's tax question, I'm also a little concerned as to why we're raising taxes when it took us until now to get a turf field at the stadium, and I watched the '03 state championship run at Wissahickon High School.
Erin Blanc, I live in Hatfield. I am here again to talk about choice. As a parent, I make the medical decisions for my children. I have carefully weighed the risks versus benefits of medical procedures, and I am qualified to make those decisions for my kids. Just as others may choose to make them for their families, they wear masks, they do vaccines, whatever. Covering my child's nose and mouth with a medical device interferes with their breathing of fresh oxygen and also puts them at risk for other medical issues. Just yesterday, a study was released that found a list of very harmful bacteria on children's masks. The moist, warm environment allows bacteria to grow. Again, I am capable of weighing the risks and benefits of medical decisions for my family. On June 3rd, Dr. Richard Lorraine of Montgomery County Department of Health said in his Unmasking the Confusion presentation that people are reluctant to give up their masks at this point. There has been a psychological, sociologic dependence on the mask in believing the mask does help protect them against the COVID infection. I have personally seen this in people. I will not allow anyone else's attachment to a piece of cloth to burden my family any longer. I'm also paraphrasing Dr. Lorraine as he said, quoting from a study in the JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, that the use of a surgical mask is anywhere from 0 to 15% effective. He says there are more studies out there that don't show a whole lot of improvement from using masks. At this point, we all should have heard, this is my words, what Dr. Fauci said about masks also in private emails that were obtained through a FOIA request. Last year, he said they weren't useful. I have been asking the board and members of administration, what is our end game here? I've not received answers, okay? What are we waiting for with the masks? I am led to believe that it's a vaccine for the young children because when I write to the board, Tina sends me, facts about vaccines. That's not what everyone's interested in, okay? The most vulnerable have been vaccinated or had their chance, so it's time to move on. Next week, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is holding an emergency meeting at the CDC to discuss the myocarditis that has been occurring in our youngest vaccinated individuals, the population which has seen almost no harm from COVID. I will not participate in this medical experiment, and the trials will not be complete until 2023. So as far as I can find here, there's no reason that we are still wearing masks. I have found no evidence that some kind of federal or local aid money is tied to wearing masks, and if there is, my kids are not for sale, by the way. And starting June 21st, masks are optional in Montgomery County at daycares and schools. I expect North Penn to follow suit and allow for parent choice going forward. If that choice is not there for my children, we will not be attending North Penn, and we already chose our cyber charter school. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Miller, and I live at 1926 Supley Road in Lansdale. 7 years ago, my son suffered from bone marrow failure. He was the immune compromised that everyone always speaks of protecting. That year, we also had daughters in kindergarten and second grade. Even the common cold could have killed our son that year, but we never placed that responsibility on the school, community, friends, or even our daughters. My husband and I were in a constant state of risk versus benefit analysis for every situation, and we practiced constant sanitation and hygiene. Today, our son is a vibrant 5th grader based on the decisions and efforts that my husband and I made. At almost 18 months into this pandemic, everyone has the tools to take the same personal responsibility for their family's health that we did 7 years ago. Those that are most at risk and anyone else who chooses is vaccinated. We know a lot about how the virus spreads, who is at risk, and how to treat and preemptively protect ourselves. Every person has the capability of learning for themselves and making decisions that are the very best for their own family and child. We no longer need a one-size-fits-all rule. The reason this is so important in regards to masking is that it is not an all-benefit situation. As a teacher and a reading specialist, I am very aware of the costs of wearing masks in a classroom, particularly for our youngest learners. The key building blocks for reading rely heavily on being able to hear correctly and see faces. Phonemic awareness relies on clearly hearing sounds in words. How many times as an adult have you not been able to understand what someone else is saying while they are wearing a mask, much less segregate the sounds that they're saying? Phonics relies on students being able to see a mouth and tongue positions in order to segregate and replicate individual sounds. How are we able to effectively teach reading minus these key features? Furthermore, a key component to education is socialization. Young children are building skills to be socially competent. Reading facial cues is a key component to understanding and relating to others. When children are deprived of this, they are unable to learn to communicate and build relationships. And we all know that relationships and classroom community are the building block to all learning that is impacting a student's ability to learn across all subject areas. With the knowledge that masking does in fact impact the young learner's education, coupled with the fact that we are all able to use the information and tools that we have gained in the last 18 months to make personal health decisions regarding how to best protect our families, it is time to turn the decision to wear masks back to the parents, who are the only ones capable of analyzing the particular needs of their own families. Parent choice is essential for the safety and educational well-being of all the students. Thank you.
Jason Lanier, 100 Oak Drive, Lansdale, PA. I've been talking to you guys a while about masking and all the nonsense that was associated, all the scientific data that was out there that would maybe saved a lot of people a lot of hassle that came up and told you about that, have since told you about that, and you seem to be a little bit more receptive to it. But maybe take some real time to think about what it is that you guys are doing and not reacting to simply whatever is being pushed down by, I don't know if it's the state party or what have you. We talked a bunch about critical race theory, and everyone on the board here denying that you guys are teaching critical race theory and that you're teaching cultural responsive learning or teaching or something along that line. And Mr. Casa pointed me to the PCCY. The woman before us mentioned talking about PCCY and all of the prescriptions, all the diagnosis they found in this book. So here they've researched a lot of studies about performances between different races, different ethnic backgrounds, different income levels, and a lot of that data could be dead on factual. I in fact went through it a little bit more and found the basis for a lot of that information comes from a paper called Race and Economic Opportunity in the United States, an Integral Perspective. You guys should bother reading this. You take some time, read this, and understand what it's saying. Look at what they conclude. Because what they conclude in this paper is not what this document tells you to do. You guys have implemented some of the things that they've asked you to implement. And this is critical race theory that they're implementing. You guys might want to say you're doing something else, but when you're doing something that looks like critical race theory, sounds like critical race theory, and acts like critical race theory, it's probably critical race theory. It doesn't matter what you call it. When you say critical race theory is, that's a great question. No, it's a good question. So basically, when one of the prescriptions in this document, this is a lot of diagnosis, bad prescription. The prescription says what you want to do is divide up the kids based upon what they look like, what their socioeconomic background is. These things are a disaster. This anti-racism is racism. You're separating people by their color and saying one group should be prescribed a different set of circumstances than the other group. All kids are created equal. Kids perform at different levels based upon what they can do. Some need more help, some need less help. But to say that one group of kids needs to be prescribed a certain platform based upon their color, or one group should be eliminated from a party of excellence because of their color, that's just damn wrong. I don't understand why it is that you guys are insisting on doing this. It's been shown across the country. Lots of people are way ahead of you in critical race theory. It's disastrous. You're eliminating AP exams. You're causing problems, strife between kids. You're lining up kids and telling one race should apologize to the other race. This is
Thank you, Mr. Lanier.
This is something that I'm assuming isn't going to be happening here. But if you follow this prescription, this will be happening here.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you very
Lanier.
much.
Democratic socialism. That's all it is. Democratic socialism.
Hi, I'm Jessie Bradica. I'm here as a parent. I live in Lansdale on Mifflin Drive. I'm here hoping that this board votes to respect parent and family choice for the health and safety of their children, and that you keep a data-backed, mask-free option for children of all ages upon the return to school. I also encourage this administration to make and communicate a solid plan of uninterrupted quality education and consider a modified quarantine for those students who may be exposed to COVID-19 and required to quarantine during the 21-22 school year. The agenda tonight includes a signature support in favor of Senate Bill 312 and 552 for changes in the Right to Know Act legislation. The House has recently proposed House Bill 1532, which is Teaching Racial and Universal Equality Act. And that is to include in state law that no Pennsylvania school district, public, post-secondary institution, or state or local government entity shall teach that any race or sex is superior to another, that any individual based on their race or sex is inherently racist or sexist, or that any individual should receive favorable treatment or be discriminated against based on their race or sex. I'm asking this board tonight to consider signing and backing that bill, along with your Senate Bills 312 and 552. This, in essence, bans critical race theory, which this board has repeatedly said that it is not implementing in North Penn, so you should have no problem backing it. And it shouldn't then shadow the important work that you are doing to make sure that all of our students succeed in North Penn. Secondly, the Senate just passed Senate Bill 618 to the House to ban vaccine passports in Pennsylvania. The PSEA has come back strongly opposing this bill, and I'd like to know where this board stands on vaccine passports in North Penn, and if this board supports the PSEA over the PA legislature. And lastly, I'd like to know what, if any, influence the $9.3 million ARP ESSER funding has on COVID safety protocols, facility improvements, and equity programs within North Penn. Thank you very much.
Okay. We're going to move along. Can I have an approval, motion to approve the minutes from the May 11th action meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Ramich, seconded by Mr. Resch. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the minutes. I need my glasses first and foremost. Thank you. For the May 20th action meeting.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Dr. Lewis Campbell, seconded by Mrs. Ramich. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. And finally, motion for Approval of the minutes of the June 8th, 2021 work session meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Ramich, seconded by Mr. McBain. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, on to committee reports. Personnel, I'll do personnel. The Personnel Committee of the Board met in executive session on June 1st, 2021 to discuss matters of personnel, including the appointment of staff and staffing considerations. And now we'll move on to finance, which I will also read. At the June 8th, 2021 Finance Committee meeting, which was a virtual meeting, the following items were reviewed. First, Christine Lebrowski presented the 2021-22 Community Education Program budget. This item appears on tonight's agenda. Marjorie Scott presented the 21-22 Extended Care Program budget, a $1.5 million transfer from the general fund to the Extended Care Program was also discussed. These items appear on tonight's agenda. Third, Mr. Skoraki provided an update on the 21-22 general fund budget. This item appears on tonight's agenda. Mr. Skoraki also summarized the current status of the state budget. Fourth, the committee heard an update from Kristen Johnson on the federal stimulus funding. Fifth, Mr. Skoraki reviewed the list of parcels for consideration for district-initiated real estate tax assessment appeals. The final list appears on tonight's agenda. Sixth, Mr. Skoraki presented the homestead farmstead exclusion amount for the 2021 tax bills. The exclusion will reduce the tax bill for eligible properties by $213.02. This item appears on tonight's agenda. Finally, Mr. Skoraki reviewed the insurance package proposal for 21-22. This item appears on tonight's agenda. The next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, July 7th at 6 p.m. It should be noted that July meetings are typically canceled. If the meeting is canceled, the monthly financial reports will be posted. End of report. Mr. Casa, Safe Schools.
Thank you, Vice President Fusco. The Safe Schools Committee met on Monday, May 24th at 6 p.m. The committee briefly discussed adjusting meeting times beginning in 2022 and agreed that the start time for the Safe Schools Committee meeting will be changed to 5:45. Dr. Bauer then outlined collaborations that have taken place between the administration and several groups in the wake of a recent incident at North Penn High School involving a Muslim student. Efforts have included meetings with the NAACP, the Council on American Islamic Relations, members of the North Penn Mosque, as well as students. These partnerships will help inform the future professional development opportunities and the comprehensive plan for cultural proficiency, which will be presented later this fall. Mr. Durr spoke about actions taken immediately following the incident to capture lessons learned and to identify training gaps which will be addressed. The committee also thanked Student Representative Sahana Prasad for her contributions to the group and wished her well as with the rest of the graduates in June. The administration will work to identify a new student representative for the Safe Schools Committee in time to ensure a smooth transition takes place. I'm happy to inform that has already occurred. And the next Safe Schools Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 28th at the new time of 5:45 p.m. and will be held in a virtual format. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Casa. Dr. G is not here tonight. Dr. Lewis Campbell, would you like to read the Education, Curriculum, and Instruction Committee report?
The Education, Curriculum, and Instruction Committee did not meet this month. In July, the committee is scheduled to meet on July 6th at 6 p.m., and the meeting will be held in a virtual format. End of report.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis Campbell. I guess I could have looked at that in advance. All right, moving on to policy. This is an update from the regular policy meeting of June 8th, 2021. This month, the committee began working on policies in the 900 series. The board focus of this series is policies is community. Policies in this grouping touch on the school district's relations and interactions with various groups, including parents, the media, educational institutions, municipal government, and the general public. At the meeting, the committee reviewed policies 903, public participation in board meetings, 904, public attendance at school events, 907, school visitors, and 916, volunteers. A notable discussion about policy 903 concerned refraining from taking action on agenda items at committee meetings until after hearing from the community members during public comment. All 4 policies are on the agenda for a first reading tonight. Also in the agenda is the notice to repeal 3 existing policies after the 4 new policies are approved for adoption. The next policy meeting is scheduled for July 7th, 2021 at 5:00 p.m. and will be held in a virtual format. End of report. Mr. Casa, Facilities and Operations.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. The Facilities and Operations Committee met on Monday, May 24th, 2021. The committee reviewed the following items that were recommended to be moved to this evening's action meeting for the board's consideration. Change order request for the Knapp Elementary School project, contract to perform programming and campus master planning for the North Penn High School, existing contract amendment for the Knapp Elementary School project. Also, the committee was presented and discussed informational items including the 2022 Facilities and Operations Committee meeting schedule and start times, an in-depth update of the Knapp Elementary and Crawford Stadium projects, Act 39 of 2018 that requires schools to discuss drinking water tests, and the Turf Tank, which is a GPS-guided field lining robot. And the next Facilities and Operations meeting is scheduled for Monday, June 28th, 2021 at 7:00 and will be held in a virtual format. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. Casa. Now we'll move on to the North Monco Technical Career Center report and Mr. McBain.
Thank you, Mr. Fusco. The Joint Operating Committee has not met since the last action meeting. However, on June 3rd, the 53rd Senior Recognition was held at the North Penn Auditorium. While there were no spectators, the students embraced the event. We hope that you were able to view it live along with families in the community. The student speakers offered wonderfully motivating comments, including Adora Smith from North Penn, who applauded her classmates for overcoming the obstacle of the pandemic. All of the students received a North Monco alumni beach towel, and the Student Activity Fund supported this gift. Over $10,000 in scholarship and awards were given out to our seniors. Due to the COVID mitigation practices, administrators wanted the students to keep the gowns worn, and the North Monco Educational Foundation assisted this by making that purchase. It was a great night. A huge thank you to Dr. Dietrich and Mr. Brong, who helped to congratulate the students. And we remind you that culinary arts and baking students concluded a very successful curbside pickup practice last week, too. You're all encouraged to see what they can do for the community in the coming months. Also last month, the North Monco Student Equity Council set goals for next year and celebrated LGBTQ+ with talks and posters that they shared with the staff and students. The next JOC meeting will be held on June 21st, which I believe is this Monday, at 7 p.m. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. McBain. Now we're going to move on to the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit and Mrs. Ramage.
Great. Some highlights from the MCIU board meeting held on May 26th included a annual retirement dinner in recognition and honor of the accomplishments of the MCIU employees. In addition to that, the MCIU board granted approval of various contracts, approved various budgets, and the MCIU board approved the administrative meet and discuss compensation plan and the coordinator technical confidential support staff compensation plans for the period of July 1st through June 30th. The MCIU board approved a number of contract service agreements to support many of its trainings, programs, and services provided by the Office of the MCIU. I believe our next meeting is set for August 23rd. End of report.
Thank you, Mrs. Ramage. And staying with Mrs. Ramage, she will now give the North Penn Educational Foundation update.
Great. The foundation met on Wednesday, June 2nd in an online format. As a board, we thank David Kratz, our president, for more than 10 years for his service. Though still a member of the board, he stepped down from his leadership position. I am happy to announce we elected Marion Fraley as our new president. Marion has been a foundation trustee for 5 years and most recently served as vice president. Marion has led the board governance committee since its inception 2 years ago. At our next meeting in August, we will elect a new vice president and a secretary. The grant committee reported that it received 30 grant proposals for the 2021-2022 school year. 17 of the grants were approved and 8 received partial or alternative funding for a total of $23,406.16. We are thrilled to be closer to normal for the new school year and anticipate offering mid-year grants to our staff as well. The foundation is currently running its end-of-year staff tribute program. For anyone who would like to acknowledge North Penn staff for their hard work this year, you can make a donation to the foundation on that person's behalf. Information can be found at the foundation's website. At the same time, we are in the midst of planning our annual golf classic, being held on Tuesday, October 5th at the Tallamore Country Club. For more information on this popular event, will be coming soon. Our next meeting is planned for August 10th at 3 p.m. And for more information on the foundation, please contact Christine Lebrowski at the ESC. Thanks, and end of report.
Thank you, Mrs. Ramich. And we're going to move on to the legislative report. And Mr. McBain.
Thank you. While June signals the end of our academic year, it is a high point of activity in Harrisburg as our elected representatives attempt to finalize a budget and, particularly over the last 5 years, revisit issues in public education. Despite recent and increased requests from local school district administrators, families, educators, and even state representatives, the state legislature has yet to propose any meaningful steps to alleviate the damage which inherent funding inequities and charter school funding mandates are inflicting on school districts and taxpayers across the Commonwealth. Instead, the Senate Education Committee revealed Senate Bill 1 last Friday, discussed it for about 18 minutes the following Monday before it was passed, sent to the Senate floor, and amended all less than 1 week after first being introduced. This fast-track legislation initially proposed to create an appointed statewide charter school commission, which would have taken away local school districts' rights to accept or deny applications for the creation of new local charter schools. That aspect of the bill was dropped, however, but even as the amended SB 1 would still increase, but even then, as amended, SB 1 would still increase the Educational Improvement Tax Credit and Opportunity Scholarship Tax Credit, both of which give credits to businesses who donate to private schools, from $240 million to $400 million collectively, and with built-in escalators which would push the total cost up to $8.5 billion over 15 years. For reference, the next highest tax credit in Pennsylvania has a total cost of only $79 million for entertainment production. These vouchers would, in essence, increase the burden on Pennsylvania's taxpayers in order to make it easier for students to attend cyber charter and charter schools, which function without so many of the oversights and requirements placed on our own public schools, and so often fail to match the student success that public schools provide. The bill was amended to include what are essentially discount coupons for public schools up to $250 per student or $500 for special education students in the coming year. But these pale in comparison to the charter school costs to districts like North Penn, which continue to rise. For reference, the average expected cost to our district for a single student enrolling for the first time in a charter or cyber charter program at the start of this past pandemic, or academic year rather, was $17,500. SB 1 is slated for a vote this Monday. Also proposed was Senate Bill 733, which allows the Pennsylvania Treasury Department to provide educational savings accounts for eligible students to use towards everything from charter school tuition to 529 college savings plans to private financial firm management fees. These vouchers would be paid for with deductions from local school districts like North Penn, according to a formula, and are estimated to cost up to $600 million across the state, or a funding cut of about $285 per student. This bill is opposed by PSBA, PSEA, the NAACP Media Area Branch Education Committee, and about 22 other educationally minded associations and organizations across Pennsylvania. And I know that Mr. Scrocchi later tonight is going to make some comments on the right to know legislation that's also moving along in Harrisburg. So I will finish with only our community is encouraged to contact their state representatives and senators about these proposals. End of report.
Thank you, Mr. McBain. All right. Actually, do you want to? Let's do this. Let's do this first. Okay. We have news, but Mr. Ruse, Mr. Ruse is going to give tonight's solicitor report in the absence of Mr. Summers.
Thank you. Our office just wishes to bring to your attention the health and safety plan. I'm sorry?
You're fine.
Yeah. The health and safety plan requirements for districts applying for American Rescue Plan elementary and secondary school emergency relief, known as ESSER funding. You must submit your health and safety plan that meets the American Rescue Plan Act requirements to PDE by July 30th, 2021. PDE has provided an optional template to ensure plan compliance with these requirements. The plan does not need to be board approved prior to submission, but it will need to ultimately be board approved.
Is that microphone on? He's having trouble with his microphone.
Feedback.
Yeah. Okay. There's some technical problems. Is that end of report?
End of report.
All right, Dr. Bauer.
Yes, good evening, everyone. And it gives me great pleasure to share with you that for the first time in 12 years, someone else is sitting in this seat because Dr. Dietrich is at the softball state championship game. And I just found out that our North Penn Knights won 11-0, so they are now state champions. So Dr. Dietrich is very excited and has been sharing updates along the way, and they are celebrating on the field as we speak. So I'll do my best this evening. So first, as part of the superintendent's report, we have the consent agenda, which includes the following items: adoption of policies for a first read, notice of intent to repeal policies, gifts to the district, acceptance of grants, extra duty changes, contracts, alternative placements, student agreements, release agreements, additions and renovations to Inglewood Elementary, and then bid awards for the following items: PE and athletic medical supplies, 21-22 musical instruments, obsolete technology, transportation, GPS and parent applications, Crawford Stadium sound system, Crawford Stadium SMPTE fiber project, fire alarm replacements and upgrades, the business office operational items for the summer 21, and lastly, item S, 2022 board and committee meeting schedule.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Ramage, seconded by Mr. Resch. Any questions?
I'd like to just thank those who gave gifts to the school district, Plains Mennonite Church, the Gwinnett Elementary Home and School Association, in particular Mr. Wayne Reed in memory of Dorothy Reed with a significant gift for a new digital organ at the high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments, all those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And now on to the non-consent items. We recommend approval of personnel items as per the attached.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casas, seconded by Dr. Lewis Campbell. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And with that vote, I am pleased to present to you this evening two new assistant principals at North Penn High School who are here with us this evening. Mr. Tyson Gross is in the audience, and Mrs. Megan Shoppy, if you'll please stand and be recognized.
Congratulations to you both.
Okay, next, recommend the approval of change order GC007 to Low Bar Incorporated in the amount of $0 for various changes encountered during construction offset by allowance 1A. 2, recommend the approval of change order MC002 to Myco Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of also $0 for various changes encountered during construction offset by allowance 4. 3, recommend the approval of change order PC001 to Myco Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of $15,892 for various changes encountered during construction. And lastly, recommend the approval of change order PC002 to Myco Mechanical Incorporated in the amount of $2,750.13 for a temporary water service tie-in.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa. Seconded by Dr. Lewis Campbell. Any questions or comments?
I would like to comment, Mr. Vice President. I'd like to thank my colleagues on the Facilities and Operations Committee. We spend many hours each month going over these important projects for the school district, in particular our colleague, Ms. Wesley, who brings great expertise and has been very helpful in ensuring that each one of these change orders is thoroughly vetted. Thank you, Ms. Wesley.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Next, we recommend approval of a contract with Schrader Group Architects for the programming and master planning for North Penn High School in the amount of $129,002.
You have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa, seconded by Mr. Resch. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
We recommend approval to increase Boucher and James Incorporated contract for Knapp Elementary School project by $8,000 to a total not to exceed the amount of $14,000.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa, Seconded by Mr. McBain. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the final budget resolution in the amount of $291,641,146 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, per the attached resolution and the PDE 2028 budget document.
Got a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Ramich, seconded by Mrs. Wesley. Any questions or comments? Thank you for your work on all of this, Mr. Skoraki, in your office. Put in many hard hours. They're in service of this community. It is appreciated.
And thank you so much for the process
Mhm.
that you take us through to get to this final budget. I really, the hours of finance committee meetings and all the work that you put into all of the hours of finance committee meetings, I know that I benefit from, but I know that your team puts a lot of work into those. But they're incredibly enlightening, and I just really appreciate all that goes into those.
Can I have a motion? Wait, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the attached resolution establishing the rates of discounts and penalties on the payment of the 2021-22 real estate taxes.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Resch, seconded by Mr. Casa. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the 2021 homestead and farmstead exclusion as per the attached resolution.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa, seconded by Mr. Resch. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the Act 93 compensation plan for administrators for the 21-22 fiscal year effective July 1, 2021. This plan includes an increase of 2.4% to the salary schedule, which is in concert with the Act 1 total spend parameter. A copy of the Act 93 compensation plan is on file in the office of the Chief Financial Officer.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Mr. McBain, seconded by Mr. Resch. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
We recommend approval of an increase of 2% in the salary hourly rate schedule of non-union and confidential support staff for the 21-22 fiscal year effective July 1st. This is in concert with the Act 1 total spend parameter.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Dr. Lewis Campbell, seconded by Mrs. Ramich. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the 2021-22 Community Education Enterprise Fund budget in the amount of $170,758 as per the attached.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Ramich, seconded by Mr. Casa. Questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the 2021-22 Aquatics Program Enterprise Fund budget in the amount of $330,271 as per the attached.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Casa, seconded by Mr. Resch. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the 2021-22 School Nutrition Services Enterprise Fund budget in the amount of $5,726,247. Meals will be free for all students for the year.
I have a motion. Motion by Mr. Casa. Second by Mr. McBain. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the 2021-22 Extended Care Program Enterprise Fund budget in the amount of $2,030,435 as per the attached.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Wesley, second by Mrs. Ramich. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Comment.
Oh, you know, I'm sorry, comment.
Somewhat related to this topic, but I wanted to make sure, since we're finally all here together and have community engagement, that all of these budget items have been thoroughly vetted in Finance Committee meetings, which is why early in the session, we had multiple minutes that were being approved. So all those meetings are in the public record, able to be viewed along with those documents through board docs. So I want to make sure that the public understands that this has been publicly vetted. So this is the end of a 6-month-long process. And thank you, Mr. Scrocky.
8, actually.
8 month, yeah.
I was trying.
And actually, as long as we're taking this moment, can you explain for those at home what an enterprise fund is?
Absolutely. We have 3 enterprise funds in the school district. We have our extended care program, school nutrition services, and community ed. And within community ed, we have our aquatics program. The enterprise fund is basically it's run like a business, a self-supporting operation. Tax dollars are not used for these funds. So the revenue generated from the funds comes from individuals that use those activities. So in a typical year, students that are paying for their meals. This coming year, that will be paid for by the federal government for the meals. For the extended care program, it's tuition paid for by parents to enroll their child in the extended care program. Community ed, those individuals that might be taking an adult education class. Aquatics, those that are enrolled in an aquatics program. So it's important to note that those enterprise funds are not funded by any tax dollars whatsoever. And the goal each year is to break even.
Thank you, Mr. Skoraki.
Could I interrupt here for a second?
Yes, Al.
Right now, we have our summer school programs that people can enroll in. I don't know the scope of them all. Dr. Bauer could probably tell you, but I know if you want to take part in the summer school programs, enroll now. Thank you.
Thank you for the plug.
We already took a vote, right?
We took a vote, yes.
Okay. All right. Recommend the 2020-21 fiscal year transfer of $1,500,000 in general funds to the Extended Care Program Fund.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Wesley, seconded by Mr. Resch. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the filing of district-initiated real estate tax assessment appeals by the August 1st, 2021 deadline as per the attached list of parcels.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa, seconded by Mrs. Wesley. Questions or comments?
Vice President Fusco, can I ask Mr. Scrocky a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in this spread, oh, is it on? It is.
Sorry, your hand was covered.
That way? Okay, thank you, Mr. Gilmer. So, Mr. Scrocky, when I look at that next to the last column, that means that's a reduction in the taxes?
No, that is the difference between the what the individuals paid for the property
Right.
versus the implied market value for the property.
Okay.
Okay, so when you take the sales price and you use that common level ratio formula that the county has,
Right.
that yields what's called an implied market value.
And
Okay.
it decreased?
No, what happened is basically the individual paid a substantially larger amount for the property than what it's currently assessed for, which is an indication that the property is under-assessed.
Okay.
So, for example, the first one that's on that list.
The dairy?
Yes, the individuals paid $15.1 million for the property,
Right.
but the implied value, based on the current assessment, is $8.4 million, meaning that there's a $6.7 million discrepancy between the recent sale and the implied market value for the property. So this indicates that the property is not only underassessed, but dramatically underassessed, hence the reason for the appeal.
Okay, so this is a real estate question. So we're all hearing and watching homes selling for well above the asking price and then not being appraised and no inspections and all. Does this have any correlation to what we're seeing in the home sale market?
Probably not, because the list that's presented tonight, these are primarily commercial properties.
Right.
Although we do look at all properties. We take a look at all properties that have transacted over the previous 12 months. And if they meet our board policy, we have them on the list for consideration for appeal. So we look at all residential and we look at commercial, industrial properties. The ones that met the threshold on tonight's list are commercial. So I don't think we're seeing that disconnect in commercial properties as much as we are residential.
Okay, thank you. That's actually, you answered my question better than I asked it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries.
We recommend approval of the 2021-22 General Insurance Package Policy and Student Accident Insurance in the amount of $666,685 as per the attached list of annual premiums and 3 bonds at a cost of $100 each.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Dr. Lewis Campbell, seconded by Mr. McBain. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
Recommend the approval of the FR Secure contract at a cost of $381,785 over 5 years.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa, seconded by Mr. Resch. Questions or comments?
Comment, please, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Vice President. This is an important step forward for the community with cybersecurity issues. North Penn is trying to be as proactive as possible. This was a process that was slowed down somewhat by the pandemic. However, I'd like to really commend the administration for having a robust process and in making this decision. To my fellow board colleagues in the community, this is truly, in this day and age, the type of investment that must be made in order to ensure continuity of operations at North Penn and to ensure that our students continue their education. So I'm happy to see where the cost came in, lower than expected, and appreciate this type of diligence as North Penn can continue to lead in Montgomery County with initiatives like this.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion carries.
And lastly, items R through W, we recommend that the attached stipulation to settle the real estate tax assessment appeal between the North Penn School District and the following organizations: Target Corporation, FTP Silk Factory Lofts LP, USIP3 Harleysville LLC, Riga Hatfield LLC, MH2 Berge LLC, and MH2 2801 LLC.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Mrs. Wesley, seconded by Mr. Casa. Questions or comments?
Vice President Fusco, I have a question, please. So, Mr. Scrocky, my normal question about the total of these assessments, is it it appears that it's in the district's favor.
Well, there's, when you take a look at the refunds and the money coming into the school district, it's actually a $19,000 reduction that we have to pay out. But moving forward, because some of these went back several years.
Right.
Moving forward, the total assessment increase is going to be $6.3 million in assessed value.
Okay.
So that translates into an additional $173,000 in revenue per year. And keep in mind, that is a direct result of that assessment appeal program that we have and board policy that we have.
Great.
So just as you approved a list for appeals for next year, the ones that are on tonight's agenda are from previous year's appeals.
Okay,
So
but
it does
it's
make a
turned
difference.
All right, thank you.
It
That's
does.
what I thought it was in the right direction for us. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to our finance report. Mr. Skoraki.
Thank you, Mr. Fusco. Hope everyone's doing well. With tonight's passage of the budget comes along the infamous real estate tax bill. So just a reminder for the community in North Penn, you should expect to receive your tax bill shortly after July 1st. If you don't receive it by the 10th of July, I suggest you reach out to your locally elected tax collector, because unfortunately failure to receive the bill is not an excuse for not paying your bill. So please reach out if you do not receive it. Also, in the previous month, the board did approve and authorize an increase to the tax rebate program that we have in place. It'll be the 4th year of the program. It'll be a 60% match of the state program. So what that means is if you are eligible for a state rebate, you could be eligible for up to $585 in a North Penn rebate. If you are a residential property owner, and if you're a renter, you could receive up to $390 in a rebate. So also for the current year, for the first time, we actually crossed $100,000 threshold in rebates for this year. And if you haven't submitted your rebate, if you have in the past and did not yet, you still have until June 30th to submit your rebate application for the 2021 year. Also, quick update on the state budget. It was mentioned to Mr. McBain earlier tonight. I was on a PASBO legislative call earlier today, and it appears that there is a handshake deal regarding the state budget. Some of the details are still being worked out, but the state budget should be voted upon and approved by June the 27th. So some of the details we don't know yet. The one important item that we're particularly interested in is how much in basic education funding are we going to receive for the coming year. There's all kinds of wild numbers being thrown around, from $250 million increase statewide to $1.1 billion, so it could be anywhere in between. So we'll certainly update you and let you know the North Penn impact as soon as that budget is passed, but it appears pretty imminent at this point. In terms of the finances, this Treasurer's report is for the month of May 2021. Cash receipts for May totaled $6.6 million. Disbursements for May totaled $15.3 million. At the end of May, we had available funds totaling $93.4 million, and that's a $4.3 million increase over last year. I'd be happy to answer any questions about finances or the Treasurer's report. Otherwise, we'd ask for a motion for approval.
Any questions for Mr. Scrocchi? Can I have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Wesley, seconded by Mrs. Ramich. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries. All right, we're going to move on to other business. Dr. Bauer is going to talk
Mr. Fusco,
about...
I'm sorry. I think we have...
I'm sorry, we're not. My mistake.
A couple other action items under finance.
You're right. Yes, there are.
Sorry about that. We also have the sanction and approval of invoices, and I'm recommending the ratification of disbursements for May totaling $22,572,367.23.
Can I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Resch. Seconded by Dr. Lewis Campbell. Questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And the final action item would be the budget transfers for the month of May. And these were reviewed at the Finance Committee last week. And the budget transfers total $823,692.93. Most of these stem from the federal stimulus money we received to make sure that the expenditure is coded to the proper account code. So we're recommending approval of those budget transfers.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa, seconded by Mr. McBain. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
And finally, just for information, we do have the financial reports listed. Just a reminder for the community, we do review these in detail at our monthly Finance Committee meeting. And also, I've stated this for the past couple months, we started the fiscal year with a $6.4 million budget deficit that was approved last June, and it appears that we are at pretty much a break-even point for this fiscal year as the projection. So we were able to overcome that $6.4 million budget deficit through increased revenues that came in higher than projected and spending less money than what was budgeted for. So that's certainly good news. So that concludes my report, Mr. Fusco. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scrocchi. Thank you for ending on good news. And I apologize for rushing you there. Now we're going to move on to other business, and Dr. Bauer is going to talk a little bit about the plan for the 21-22 academic year.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Gilmer, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you, sir. Okay, so board directors, you'll see here just an updated timeline for a process for families to choose their instructional delivery model. So this is a timeline that we presented last week at the work session. I believe that was June 8th, which said we gave a presentation, of course, on June 8th. Formal request and commitment from families. We had said June 10th to June 24th. Contacting non-respondents the next week or so, and then planning and preparation for staffing, sectioning, et cetera. And the first day of school being August 30th. Next slide, please, Bob. However, we certainly heard from the community and via email and public comment and so forth, phone calls, that folks would like to see our health and safety plan before making that commitment. So as a result, we've updated that timeline. So we are going to bring forth the health and safety plan forward to this board on July 15th. The survey will go out following that on July 16th. We will give a week for families to respond. Of course, we'll do all the things that we have to put in place in terms of staffing, sectioning, et cetera. And then the first day of school would be on the 30th. And then on the next slide, we have a few items just of note. which certainly we've heard about this evening. So in terms of staffing or commitment from families, we're asking that elementary students and families commit to a trimester. Certainly that will be a minimum of a trimester. The full year will be an option, so some families can select, I want to be in person all year right from the start. The date could be subject to adjustment based upon vaccine availability. I know some families want to know when they'll be able to get their child vaccinated, if they so choose. And then for secondary students, we ask that they commit to a year. So if you recall from that presentation, the virtual option for the secondary students is asynchronous MPVA, which has been in existence for quite some time. Additional hires for virtual learning, we will use federal funds to have at least 2 sections per grade, K through 6, for synchronous online learning. Another reminder from that June 8th presentation is that if you have a second grade class of virtual students, they will most likely not be all second graders from, say, Bridle Path. It will be across the district. And then one other thing, of course, that is up for discussion and will need to be in that health and safety plan on July 15th is masks. So as of right now, we are recommending, because all secondary students ages 12 through 18 will have had the option to be vaccinated if they so choose, so masks would be optional, and then we would need to make a decision regarding our elementary students. With that, I think that takes us to the next agenda item, which is in response to the guidance that we've also heard referenced this evening from the Montgomery County Office of Public Health. So yesterday, I actually reached out to Montgomery County Office of Public Health and spoke to officials there and just asked, are you guys planning to release any guidance anytime soon? And they said, actually, this afternoon. So this was yesterday morning, and the press release came out yesterday afternoon. And they said that in schools, effective June 21st, 2021, of course, that vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals, masks should be optional. This is guidance, of course, guidance. So, as a result, I, of course, called Mr. Summers, and this evening we have Mr. Ruse with us, and said, do we need to take action if we are going to implement that? I think most folks know that on June 28th, the mask order is lifted in the state. However, this is saying in the county, in the school environment, effective June 21st, they can be optional. So do we need to take action in order for that to be the case? And due to our health and safety plan, I was told that yes, we do, because our health and safety plan does say masks inside the school. And that health and safety plan does expire on June 30th. So there is from June 21st till June 30th or the 28th, because of the mask order, there is kind of a gap in there. So if we were going to take action on this to allow, next week we have baseball camp that begins, which is outside except when it rains. Roughly 200 students or youth participate in that camp. We also have our extended school care. An extended school care program, they do follow different rules and regulations, just so everyone knows. So they are not a part of this action if we were going to do that. We also have a theater program going on at Pembroke next week. So no ESY or summer school begin prior to June 28th. So we're really just talking about those for next week, and then beyond June 28th, the indoor events. I also did ask, what's the most recent data that we've heard in the county? And the health official from Montgomery County said, most recent numbers say that the incidence rate is 8 per 100,000, and the positivity rate is 0.97%. And said, and I quote, I asked if I could quote this at the board meeting, and she said, absolutely, that at this point, it is highly unlikely that you will be exposed to COVID-19 in Montgomery County. So, we're all very proud of that. So, we did put in a recommendation if the board wanted to act upon the new guidance from Montgomery County, and it states, recommend that the wearing of masks be optional for students participating in district summer programs effective June 21st, 2021, in accordance with the guidance provided by Montgomery County Office of Public Health.
Can I ask a quick question? The guidance that was issued by the county does offer exceptions that says masks must still be worn in medical facilities, and it also said public transportation and what other. The question that I have is do any of these summer camps, how do they define public transportation in a school setting, and are they considering, or have they ever up to this point considered our buses to be that, and do these camps utilize bus service to get from different points? I know parents are dropping kids off.
So I did expect we'd have some conversation. Should we have a motion and a second before we discuss?
Yes, let's do that.
And I think
We're gonna have a discussion shortly thereafter. Okay, can I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, motion by Dr. Lewis Campbell, seconded by Mrs. Ramich. Now, let's talk.
Okay, Mr. Ruse, are you able to respond to that question in terms of public transportation and our school buses?
the situation with the public transportation, the school buses, is it will be done in accordance with whatever the guidance is of the Office of Public Health. So if they're saying it's not necessary, then it's not necessary.
That was easy.
And, question is, that new guidance from the county, does that have thresholds, any other thresholds going forward? Because everyone talks about the fall.
Yes. Mr. Casa, I expected this question, so I do have the actual press release from Montgomery County, and it does say here, as of June 15th, 2021, Montgomery County has seen 36 days consecutively below 5% positivity, 25 days consecutively below 50 cases per day, and 11 days consecutively below 20 cases per day. And that threshold that they are speaking to is the 20 cases per day, 14-day average. That is the threshold. Yes.
Point of clarification then, on the motion, this is
just for summer programs.
This is just for summer programs.
For summer
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is just, with the motion on the floor at this point, right now, is just to approve for the summer programs. Folks, relax, we're getting there. Any other comments from the board? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Now, I appreciate that we are moving back a decision so that the parents' opportunity to make a decision about the program they're going to choose for their child next year, so that they have the information, they're armed with the information to make an informed decision for their child. However, one day is not a lot of time, and it is in July when people are away. So I think it is prudent for us to have a discussion tonight, since the one open question that remains is whether or not we are going to make masks optional for students in kindergarten to sixth grade in our buildings, optional or mandatory. I believe that when I had expressed my concern at our work session meeting, my concern really stemmed from a lack of guidance from the county regarding a threshold for when we should consider, if we should consider having to remove or return to a mandate. The county has provided us that information, right? They are suggesting that if at some point we were to get to 20 out of 100,000 cases in the county, at that time, we should be returning to a mask mandate. At this time, I think we can agree, and with the professionals that say that it is safe to allow families to make a decision for themselves and for their children about whether or not a mask should be used in school, that I, personally, speaking for myself, would be comfortable moving to have a optional, making it optional for families in the fall. I would like to hear thoughts from other board members.
Ask for a motion.
Okay, actually, let me make it a motion. All right, I thought we discussed something. So I'm going to, so can I have a motion?
Do you want Mr.
To make
Roos
masks? Yeah, Mr. Roos, read the motion, please. I'm butchering this.
Allow me to suggest wording that the administration be authorized to amend the district's health and safety plan in order to provide for optional mask wearing in accordance with the guidance from the Montgomery County Office of Public Health. For all grade levels.
For all grade levels.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Casa. Do I have a second? Second by Dr. Lewis Campbell. Now, questions or comments?
I just have one question. This is Dr. G. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Thumbs up if you can.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay. So I agree and support based on the guidance that's provided. I just wanted to ask if there was additional guidance regarding medically fragile children or in classrooms where you might have medically fragile children, like a life skills classroom. I'm just wondering if there's any specific guidance to that relative to schools.
Mr. Roos.
The guidance issued yesterday doesn't address that specifically, but if there is a student that's medically fragile, it would presumably be addressed by that student's service agreement.
I guess I was thinking, oh, sorry, Jonathan. Just one quick follow-up to that. I guess I was asking the question more, obviously it would be addressed by their service agreement, but typically masks aren't in IEPs. And so I'm wondering if there's any guidance relative to the adults in the classroom working or the students being masked. That was all. And again, I'm not recommending one way or the other. I was just wondering if there was any guidance.
There's none from the guidance from the Montgomery County Office of Public Health. I believe there should be guidance from CDC and the Pennsylvania Department of Health, though.
Yeah, and I think it's also reasonable that with this, if this were to pass, it is authorizing us to develop the plan with this in mind. So we could certainly do some work between now and July 15th to include any guidance on that.
And thank you, Dr. Bauer. And that's why I think making this move, it's the most common sense thing to do. When we were at work session having this discussion, it was about, when are we going to receive that guidance for a threshold? As Vice President Fusco said, we've received that now. And I'm very confident as one board member, wanting to make sure that we make our intentions very clear for what the HSA plan needs to look like for all grades going to next year. That's why I adamantly support this motion being approved.
And I just want to comment that we've gotten to this place because we've pulled together as a community and we've focused on compliance and safety, and we've put the safety concerns of our students and our entire community. So to hear that our numbers are so low, I'm incredibly grateful, and I'm inclined to do this as well.
I'd like to just say that it's the reason that we all erupted in applause when we heard those comments from our county officials. And I want to thank our county officials for being there for us. We didn't get the guidance that we wanted when we wanted it sometimes because we wanted it right away, and it was a new disease, and we couldn't have it right away. But I'm very proud of how this board handled the situation, and this vote, I feel, is the next step in the same process we've been taking the whole time, which was using the science, using what we know about our own local community to make each decision every time. I'll talk with you later on. My name's Tim. I'll be out back. Thanks.
Vice President Fusco, I want to thank.
Excuse me. We are still having a meeting, folks. Ms. Wesley. Ms. Wesley. Floor is yours, Ms. Wesley.
Vice President Fusco, I'd
Yes.
like to thank the administration for developing and implementing a health and safety plan that, when I reviewed other districts, is far above in terms of quantitative and qualitative information. And to Mr. McBain's point, there was a lot of information, quantitative, coming from different scientific sources that were included that we utilize. So I think it's a very good decision to move forward with a vote to allow mask optionality for all grade levels and the health and safety plan to be updated and be clean and simple with our direction, and give parents the ability to make decisions on their own regarding their children and what they want to do. So thank you very much, Dr. Bauer and your team.
Thank you, Ms. Wesley. Anyone else? Okay, there is a motion on the floor. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Bauer. All right, moving along. Who is handling item C, PSBA voting delegates? Is that you, Mr. Scrocky?
I certainly can, Mr. Fusco. This is an annual appointment of PSBA voting delegates based on the size of North Penn. We're permitted to send 3 delegates to the PSBA conference and to actually vote on our behalf, and that's scheduled for October 23rd. So the recommendation was to send Mr. Casa, Mr. McBain, and Mr. Resch to serve as our voting delegates, and they graciously agreed to accept that recommendation. So we need a motion and formal approval on that, and I would send that then to PSBA to designate our voting delegates.
Can I have a motion?
So,
Motion by Dr. Lewis Campbell, seconded by Mrs. Ramich. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. And finally, item D.
So, Mr. Fusco and the board, we discussed this at the last Finance Committee meeting. There's proposed legislation in Senate Bill 312 and 552 dealing with amending the right-to-know legislation. Senate Bill 312 deals with a change that would allow the school district to charge for commercial requests for right-to-know requests. And I use an example at the Finance Committee meeting. We have one organization from Florida that quarterly submits a right-to-know request asking for all the detail of our vendors, name information, address information, and a complete detail activity of all of our purchase orders generated. So we typically are 25, 30,000 purchase orders a year, and this is a marketing company that then sells that data. And we provide that information to them free of charge. So Senate Bill 312 would at least allow us to charge for our staff time to compile that data as part of the right-to-know request. Senate Bill 552 deals with what is called a vexatious requester. So basically an individual using the right-to-know system to basically annoy or harass the school district. The school district would then be permitted to make a request to the Office of Open Records to designate that individual as vexatious, meaning then that any request that they submitted for a one-year period could basically be ignored by the school district. We would not need to respond to that. So we potentially have at least one individual in the school district that would fall under that category. So this is proposed legislation that is supported by PSBA and PASBO, and we're asking for your support of that through the board resolution. Should the board choose to pass that resolution, we would send that to our local legislators as well as through our statewide email connection to basically announce to other school districts that's the position that the school board has taken. Both of these items of proposed legislation are not meant to thwart any requests for public information. We've received 105 requests, right-to-know requests so far this year. One individual has submitted 36 requests. When that individual submits his request, he makes disparaging comments about North Penn staff. So, potentially that individual could fall into that vexatious category. And again, it's really meant to deter those individuals that are simply using the right-to-know process to harass the school district. It's not meant in any way to deter people from legitimately receiving public information and public records that the law permits.
And by having these, it really does seem that it would restore the right to know process for the community, right? So it exists for our community members to be able to request information. But right now, because of the number of commercial requesters or a vexatious requester, it really is detracting from the ability to be able to be as responsive as we need to be.
Yeah, he can't make a recommendation. Okay, can I have a motion?
So, second.
Motion by Mr. Casa, seconded by Mrs. Ramich. Any other comments?
Yes, Vice President Fusco. So, Mr. Scrocky, so this, just so I'm clear, this vote is to say that North Penn School Board supports this moving forward to our legislatures, correct? Yes. And then how do they determine the criteria for determining who is a vexatious requester? Is that something we would be able to provide as, if we had tangible data to say we believe this is the criteria, because you wouldn't want it, I'm supportive of it, absolutely, but I just want to make sure my opinion from the board is it has to be clear about what it is, like it's a lemon law thing.
So the school district would make an application and provide information such as the number of requests that were made, the type of request, any comments the individual made when the requests were submitted, things of that nature. Okay. And then ultimately would be up to the Office of Open Records. Their specific criteria has not really been established, so there's going to be some subjectivity, but it would be incumbent upon the school district making application to basically prove its case.
All right. But thank you. So what that helps clarify for me is that this would be an independent determination. It wouldn't be a determination specifically from the district. It
Not
would
at
be an
all.
independent team that would be assessing to assess but our district's position. Thank you.
Correct. The only decision the district will be making is, should we make application to the Office of Open Records to even, apply to them to see if they would rule that an individual is a vexatious requester.
Now, I'm sorry, just one more question, then I'll stop. Do you anticipate that if the district made a decision, they wanted to submit, a requester, would that requester be notified from the district that they have now been put on notice regarding this, that we've sent their name in and all of this data to document or kind of confirm that we think they are? Or would that be the independent review team that would actually contact them?
I think it would be fair for the school district to let the individual or organization know that we've made application.
Yeah, because I think that's a more transparent approach. Thank you.
And if somebody is determined to be vexatious and we win the case, they're only stopped from putting in requests for a year. For 1 year, correct. Right. They can still add requests the next year. Correct. So it's really a learning process for them and a learning process for us on the right way to use the process. It's not, we're not taking anybody's rights away from them. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Anyone else? Okay. We have a motion. We do. All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries.
While we're on other business, I just wanted to take this opportunity, now that we are back in session in person, thank goodness, I wanted to show some appreciation to Mr. Gilmer. Mr. Gilmer has made his home a TV studio. He has driven to Quakertown to set up cameras so families can watch their kids participate in sports, ran over to the high school and set up 3 more cameras, come over here and set up Zoom meetings for all of us, turned on microphones when Mr. Scrocky forgets to turn his microphone on. Bob, you are a true gem to this community, and it has been a long haul, and I just wanted to thank you.
He is invaluable. All right, we're going to move on to our second opportunity for public comment at this time.
I got it. Are we ready? Okay, coming out of the, wait a minute, don't start. I gotta get my name and everything, and then we can start the 3 minutes. I like to, give me at least 3 minutes. We are impinging upon my free speech from the former administration here. My name is William Patchell. I live at 404 Bonnie Lane, Lansdale, Pennsylvania. Lived here for like 27 years. So I am a participant in this. I had 2 kids go through here, okay? So I've had an observation. In my neighborhood, I live in Montgomery Township. I consider that the finest unit in this cobble of people living together that require public education. Okay? What I really wanted to talk about was the people out there that are going to watch this on television. Here's the real agenda for these people. They have a plan to renovate this high school for about $400 million. They were going to take a little tour there. They're going to bring the 9th grade over here. That's going to cause a fantastic traffic jam, okay? I have to remind that this renovation will be done by prevailing wage, okay? Local Union 98, IBW, the rate will be $100 an hour, okay? Your taxes will go up so badly, you'll be lucky to get, well, a naked light bulb hanging from the center of the classroom. You are being priced out of the ability to redo this infrastructure, and that's the way it is, okay? This board has decided to make everybody feel really loved, hugged, and feeling the same. We got rid of the no class standing. Why would you remove somebody's input after working a long time? Well, we're going to make other people feel badly. That wouldn't be nice to them. Okay? What about the contract coming up? Okay, how much is that going to focus in on? Now they want to build a medical clinic. Why would you want to get into medical care? It doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? You've never defined why you would want to do that. It's just insane. Okay, I have 1 minute here. We're going about the right to know. I know Mr. Strachey hates this thing. He's trying desperately to get out from under it. He said, I have one here, April 15th. I said, information about the number of people contact traced for exposure to COVID-19 during the month of March 20. Seems like a very basic question. What does it say? Denied. No records exist. April 20th. 5 days later, I must be a serial RTK person. Okay, what does it? Information regarding nursing staff contacting COVID-infected students in March. What does it say? Denied. No records kept. You don't keep any records like that? What do? Just keep the records you like and throw the other ones away? It doesn't make any sense. I've been here for 12 years talking over and over and over through various administrations. And you know what? Questions and comments? There's never any comments. It's like a unified. You know what this is? This is going from a rather participation of the public to nothing but a socialist democratic exercise in control of what people do. We are sick and tired of it. And with the people, the elected bodies that are going to show up in November are going to vote all of you out. And we're going to get back to the American dream that people need to have.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to clarify, Mr. Strachey, perhaps I've missed this in the years of Facilities and Operations Committees. Do we have a $400 million price tag for North Penn High School?
I have no idea where that number comes from.
Neither do I. So I think it's important for the community to at least have fact-based discussions and not just emotional responses. Thank you very much, Mr. Strachey.
Hello, Erin Blanc again from Hatfield. I just jotted down some notes after hearing the mass discussion. I guess I need something clarified too. Can you clarify, please? The current North Penn mask policy, not the health and safety plan, it says that we're following the Pennsylvania Department of Health mask mandate. So now I guess we made this new decision based on what Montgomery County said. Pennsylvania didn't have any thresholds to pedal backward. Montgomery County does. So what are we following? Montgomery County or Pennsylvania? I don't know. I guess you don't have to answer me now, but it's point of clarification needed.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
Sure. Of course, I don't like to respond during public comment. I can call you. But honestly, so the policy itself dictates that the board can override. So in there, it says that under the mask mandate or board action. So that's what happened this evening. The board took action.
Okay, so are we changing the policy, the mask policy?
So because the mask mandate is lifted on the 28th in the state, then that, in terms of us requiring masks, it no longer applies because the mask mandate doesn't exist. It says in accordance with the mask mandate, which will no longer exist effective June 28th.
Yeah, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
The only thing if I can just finish for a couple seconds here.
And I promise I'll call you.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like you're reserving the right to take it away based on if, we reach certain thresholds. And that's not what Pennsylvania said. So now our county's saying that. So I'll just leave it at that. But we appreciate that, we made this decision tonight. I consider it a small gift at this point. Thank you.
Vicki Flannery, North Wales Borough. I just want to go off of what he was saying regarding the right to know. It is our American right to know everything that you people are doing. Again, you are elected by us. you work for us, we do not work for you. Whatever we want to know, whatever you're doing, we have the right to ask, and it doesn't matter how many times. So get it together. It's none of your business. We want to know something, you take care of it, and you get us that information. You are not allowed to vote us out because it affects you and your little agendas, and you want to say that denied, denied, denied. Again, we have the right to know. We pay this district our tax money. You do not pay us. You work for me. I don't work for you. So the next time I send 40 right to knows, I damn well better get all 40 right to knows. Again, another thing. Continuing with my earlier statement that per the PSBA, that you never use the position for improper benefit to sell for others, do all of you on this board commit to fulfilling your elected terms before running for another political office? And I'll sit here. I have 2 minutes to wait.
Well, clearly you want to direct that at this particular board member. I'm speaking for no other. But I find it to be a cynical question as to someone that wants to further serve the community. Any one of us.
Okay, I
on
asked
any
then.
school board, you asked me to.
You're taking my time, though. Pause my time, please.
You'll get it. The issue is when my family, when I decide to volunteer and serve, we'll get the time, Mr. Patchell. When I decide to do that,
Mr. Patchell, you are not to speak at this point.
Let's set a good example for the kids.
Don't speak to him like that. Again, you work for him. He doesn't work for you.
So when you ask me about whether I'm going to make some commitment to serve the community in a higher office or not, this isn't the place or time for that
Mr.
commitment.
Casa, I do have a question regarding that. If you do run for political office again, like you did last time and you remained on the board, do you commit, because ethically, I find it completely wrong, if you stay on this school board while running for political office, this is supposed to be an apolitical position. I do agree that it is your right under this republic, this great republic of the United States, that you are allowed to run for political office if you do see so. But because this is an apolitical position and it should be ran as such, do you agree to step down should you try to run again?
I'm in no position to even discuss what I would be running for. So
All right,
thank
well,
you.
when you do run, if you do run, I will come back with that question.
Be well.
Anybody else?
Thank you for your feedback.
35 seconds. Mr. Fusco, do you have anything to say? Of course you don't. God bless America.
Thank you.
Jason Lanier, 100 Oak Drive, Lansdale. Two things. First, regarding the data, I guess Mr. McBain said something, Ms. Wesley said something about the data you guys use to determine whether or not to open with regarding the mask or slow opening. I've been asking for this data since the first meeting I came to, I phoned into. Where's the data? You guys keep claiming you have information which guides your decision making, yet there's been no data provided, none. I've sent the information I have, which is scientific research based upon, Journal JAMA, Lancet, Oxford Medical, all of these data sets that would show the safety, what works, what doesn't work, what is necessary. The fact that there's very little efficacy in masks, you guys don't seem to appreciate that. What data are you using? Are you using data? Yes, no? So then stop saying you're using data if you're not using data. If you're just getting persuaded by the Montgomery Board of Health and they're not even looking at the data, then what are you doing? Why isn't the board's position to open no mask? If your kid needs a mask, or if you feel you want your kid to wear a mask, you come talk to us, we'll allow that to happen. But don't make it conditional on anything. The condition should be normal school, not anything else. First item. Second item, I wanted to get a little bit more into this critical race theory because we didn't get quite far enough. When we looked at what this PCCY recommends, why would you follow the recommendation? These guys have been down in Philadelphia for how long? Since like 1980? Who wants to model the Philadelphia school district? Why are we following their recommendations, who recommends to the Philadelphia School District? I don't understand why we'd be doing that. Have you looked at who they use or who they reference or who they want to come up here? I guess we had a speaker come by, Matthew Kay. He's totally in favor of critical race theory, but we're not doing critical race theory. We are buying lots of books, and Mr. Strzok asked some questions regarding the books that we've been buying and some of the line items that are listed in the billing. You know, we have $14,000 that go to miscellaneous and lots of money. And there's probably a perfectly good explanation, but there's a lot of textbooks that have been purchased on sort of radicalized book suppliers. What is this for? I would like to know, because to me, when I look at what those book suppliers offer, it makes me concerned. It makes me concerned that you guys are following this prescription to a T, and that pretty soon we're going to be implementing a pretty harsh critical race theory curriculum. So if you aren't doing it, then maybe supply more information, because that's the last thing. There is nothing that shows the entire curriculum and what you're doing. There's lots of references to it, but there isn't the information. We can't see what our kids are being exposed to.
Thank you, Mr. Lanier.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I lying or am I dying? Am I right? Is there a place to find that?
You're done.
Is there a place to find that information?
Mr. Lanier, contact Dr. Bauer, all right?
Yeah.
Call with Dr. Bauer.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tarun Iyengar. I'm a 9th grade student here at, well, going into 10th grade now, but here at North Penn. I live in Montgomery Township. I just wanted to thank the staff for making a successful school year, this past school year, and the school board for their hard work planning for the next school year. And I wanted to talk about masks because masks, I know making it optional, nobody likes masks, but I know that not wearing a mask, I feel most comfortable with my peers who are vaccinated, and I know the school district can't force people to get vaccinated, and they can't really ask people if they're vaccinated. But I'm wondering if they're going to pursue any efforts to encourage people to get vaccinated, students, and I'm not sure teachers if they'll do the same. And if you are going to, what ideas you have in mind to encourage people to get vaccinated. And yeah, that's all I have to ask.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Jessie again, Jessie Bradica, same address as before. I'd like to compliment the board and the administration on approving your policy 232 regarding student involvement in decision-making. I hope that it provides this board the opportunity to not just value student involvement, but to actively seek out students that both support and challenge your board agendas. This is a 9 out of 9 politically endorsed board that has the same views. So encouraging students with other views, I think, would be extremely beneficial. There is some confusion within the community regarding the health clinic that is proposed to be built on the old radio station grounds. I'd like you to clarify what stage of the 9 through 12 complex plans will the center be built, what kind of support you have from the teachers and staff that will be utilizing it, and if the center is being separately or in conjunction financed in the same budget. On the topic of the 9 through 12 center, when will we know what the plan is for restructuring building grade levels, and what are the plans for Penndale and the facility issues at Penndale during and after the 5-year 9 through 12 complex building plans? And I'd like an answer. Thank you.
This is public comment. This is simply your opportunity to speak. It's not a public discussion.
Wow. Well, then I'll look for it on your next agendas. Thank you.
Shane Gilchrist, Oxford Road, Lansdale. Just two things. I'm just curious as to the board's view on being able to go directly to North Penn's website and look at the support links and follow them directly to YouTube pages that have A, anti-police rhetoric, when you have police servicing the school, you have a number of police officers with their families living in the community, and then B, you have rhetoric that some parents might have voted for one political party over another, and those parents that did might be mean, and that if your parents voted for one political side, you should seek assistance or guidance from elsewhere outside of that family union. These can be found directly off the links on North Penn's website.
All right. Seeing no other public comment, can I have a motion to adjourn? All right. Thank you very much. We're adjourned.